Hi. So, what if your nervous system had hidden powers you've never been taught to use? Powers that could calm anxiety, build resilience, and even guide your intuition. So, in this episode of Reflection of the Sacred Self, we are going to delve into the nervous system in detail and some of the hidden and less known benefits of the nervous system and things it's actually doing for you. And the truth is that this is I'm going to say to people, I'm on this journey with you. And this is, although I've known a lot of these things for a long time, I haven't really known them, if that makes sense. So it's stuff that maybe I felt intuitively, but I haven't really known. And so I'm spending time learning all about this as well. And I'm sharing with you what I'm learning. And a lot of it is my understanding, my interpretation of everything that I'm learning and how I'm using it. And I hope it benefits you, because for a long time, like when I was dealing with, and I've dealt in my life with a lot with anxiety and depression. And anxiety, I mean, if I'm honest, suffering from anxiety goes back over 30 years. I was struggling with insomnia when I was 14 years old. And like it goes on all the way back. It's all the way back of stress, anxiety, and all of these things that I have kind of tried to deal with all my life mentally. And I've tried to think myself out of it and get my brain to do all of the work without realizing just how much of these conditions and these things going on for me. Now, I'm not a mental health professional. This is me personally and things that I've learned, how much is going on in the nervous system, okay? And how much work we can do by working with the body to affect things like anxiety and depression and to be a support alongside medical intervention if you need medical intervention. And I just want to say before we get really into it, this isn't medical advice. I'm not medically trained. This is my understanding of the nervous system, my understanding of the whole things and the way I'm using it. And if it's beneficial to you, then please use it. If it's not, then please don't. And if you need medical attention because you have severe anxiety, severe depression, and you need help, then please seek it. Please don't just rely on this video because I'm not like, I don't know, right? I don't know enough about it to say this is going to solve your problem. So the hidden powers of the nervous system that I'm going to tell you about, there's three of them. We're talking about neuroception, regulation, and intuition. So the first one is basic neuroception, which is reading safety and danger. This is something that maybe we're unaware of, and it's something that was introduced by Dr. Stephen Porges when he's developed polyvagal theory. And he actually got through this through looking at the vagus nerve and what was going on with it and studying it, and actually how we have this communication between the body and the brain. And the vagus nerve is basically the brake. So the vagus nerve turns off the fight or flight, essentially. It's a lot more to it. It can go too far and it can put you into collapse, it can even put you into heart failure to an extent if you go really, really far when you're going the other way. It's quite rare because we learn how to regulate it, but there's a lot that goes on there. But what essentially neuroception is that our bodies are out there like picking up on signals. Okay, so all of this stuff is happening within the body, and the body tells us whether we're safe. So it might be the tone of someone's voice, the look on their face, the environment that you're in. So a smell might trigger it, because especially if a smell has had negative connotations in the past, the smell might trigger something. And all of it, a sound, like a loud bang, your body, or even not a loud bang, there may be a background noise that your brain is not consciously aware of, that your body can pick up on and sense that doesn't feel safe. And all of these things. And also the way neuroception can work a lot is we understand what is our baseline norm. So actually things that aren't necessarily dangerous, but they're outside our comfort zone, can trigger our bodies and our nervous systems. So going to a strange place, even though there's nothing wrong with the place, it's a perfectly fine place, it's perfectly sane, you know what's going on, the body may react, the nervous system may react. So neuroception may start to tell our body, no, this is not safe, because we don't know, it's not familiar. So it's things like as well, like when you walk into a room and you instantly sense tension, your body is picking up on those signals all the time. So your body is scanning for cues long before the brain clicks what's going on. And actually, what happens with this whole system is your body clocks all these things and develops whether it feels safe or not safe. And it sends a message up to the brain whether it feels safe or not. And the body doesn't, what the body doesn't do is give the brain the reason for why it doesn't feel safe. So this is where the brain comes in, because the brain will then interpret these sensations and create a story around it. Now, that story is not necessarily accurate. It's usually quite a good indicator, but bearing in mind that your brain is, you've got these sensations and your brain is creating a story. I've always been very good at, one of the things that my body can pick up on very, very quickly is when somebody has a negative feeling towards you and they try and mask it. I've always had a belief, this is actually going back quite a while. I watched a series with Tim Roth in called Lie to Me, where they could tell if people were liars, and they were picking up on micro cues. And it suddenly dawned on me that I think the reason I can tell how people are feeling in so many different situations is I'm really good at picking up on micro body language and micro cues without being consciously aware that I'm doing that. So my body is picking up on micro body language, maybe to a higher degree than say other people do. And so my intuition feels really strong about people, and a lot of that is to do with my body being able to pick up on things that I can't actually see with my brain. That makes sense. So that's all about regulation. That's all about neuroception. That's how that works. So the other thing that the nervous system can do is reset itself or regulate. So when you do practices like movement or breath, so we often think of nervous system regulation things as breath work and calming and grounding. But also, it's anything that's going to change the way, change your state. Okay, so if you are feeling stressed and anxious, sometimes going for a brisk walk where you get yourself moving and you get everything pumping again can have a big impact as well. That can help to regulate the nervous system. So it's changing what your body is doing can change how your nervous system is reacting to, because it can actually regulate and reset itself. And it can send all those signals of safety back up to the brain, which can then impact how we feel. So if we're feeling anxious and we reset everything, that can change the stories in the brain, because the brain's like, I feel safe. So then the anxious stories can actually start to subside. That's how I found it. Maybe not everybody else feels it the same way. And talking a bit about where we're talking about neuroception brings us back into the third power, which is guiding our intuition, which is when I was talking to you about the micro cues. It's those kind of things. So where are neuroceptions coming together and we get these things like a gut feeling, a chest tightness, and all these, maybe a sigh of relief, or just little things that are happening that our body's picking up on through the neuroception, and the way our brain is interpreting it, that allows us to have our intuition. And, you know, when you actually think of it like this, and they do say that, you know, I was reading something once, but I read lots and I can never remember where I've read it, but I was reading something about how business people, and specifically very successful business people, have very, very good intuition. And I think that that's something to do with them actually tuning into their nervous system more, like they're more in tune. So they're listening, their brain is listening to the signals being sent to them, and then they're interpreting it because they're listening more, and they're listening and they're connecting and they're regulating more. So actually, as you start to tone your vagus nerve, you start to develop the ability to communicate between the body and the brain, and the brain's listening and interpreting. You actually enhance your intuition. So it becomes a scientific kind of connection. Again, my interpretation. So why haven't you been taught this? Well, partly because it's relatively new science, right? This is relatively new that we're starting to learn to understand this. It's a bit like neuroplasticity. These are all new concepts. We didn't believe that we could change the brain. And we're talking like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we've discovered that we can actually do this. And the extent to which the brain is plastic and can be changed, I think we're still learning, we're still understanding, and we're still developing. And then again, with things like neuroception, it's relatively recently one that we've understood how that all works. But, you know, discovering that we actually have essentially like brain cells in our heart, in our gut. So the heart and the gut are thinking. They can store memories, they can store sensations. So, and these are things we've been discovering and understanding and learning. And so as we learn more about it, we start to understand more about how we aren't, like, everything is not separate. And the irony is that if you look to Eastern medicine, they've been telling us for centuries, millennia, that our bodies and our brain are one. Our bodies and our mind are one, and you can't treat them separately. You have to treat them as a whole. And I think that as we learn more scientifically about the brain, about the body-brain connection, we're learning more and more scientifically that actually that is a fact. Actually, you can't treat the body and not deal with what's going on in the brain. And again, when we come to mental illness, you can't treat the brain on its own. It's still interacting with the body, and the body is still interacting with it. So if you're working on the brain, but you're not dealing with the cues that the body is sending the brain, then you're never going to really make any real progress. And part of the problem for that, especially in the Western world, is that our culture prioritizes mindset, logic, thinking, rationalization. And we don't consider the importance of feelings, of emotions, of sensations, and how that impacts everything. And we can be very, very practical. And I think that as we're learning more, as we're getting the scientific research behind this, the backing to prove that actually this is fact, then there'll be more of a shift towards this body-mind connection. So that's how I see it. And when we how can we kind of like tap into these powers so we can actually use them to our benefit, right? And not just have it as an abstract concept. Well, start off as well by beginning to track your body's signals. So starting to become aware of what's going on in your body. So notice when you feel tension, when you've got gut feelings going on, like notice what's happening in your body. And when you're stuck in freeze mode or when you're ready to fight, like what's happening? What's going on? And also notice the thought patterns that may be triggering these sensations in the body as well, because there is a two-way connection. Yes, most of the connection goes from the body to the brain, but the brain is still sending signals to the body. And then you can use simple practices that allow you to reset. So now with this, one of the things I would say is the more often you practice resetting the nervous system, so even if you don't feel like you're dysregulated, what you do is you tone up the vagus nerve, you make it more resilient. So you make coming back into that place of calm much easier. So doing really simple practices like self-holding, giving yourself a hug every now and again, or grounding, breath work, maybe shaking it up so you can shift the body and shift stagnant energy, particularly good if you feel that you get frozen or stuck, or like if you sit at a desk on a regular basis, then you're sitting all the time. So giving some movement. So even if it's just like a somatic shake and you just shake yourself out a little bit and just do that just to release stored energy in the body. All of these things are starting to connect your nervous system and your brain with how your body feels. But even if you just do as much as on the hour, every hour, take 2 deep breaths, right? That is you reconnecting your nervous system. And then this is the next thing you can start to do is to start to trust. So experimenting with small intuitive yes and no signals from your body. So just starting to tune in and ask your body questions like, is this right or wrong? Or should I do this or not? And like listen for a yes or a no. Listen to what your body is telling you. Because so often, and yes, there is the third eye intuition. So that is about 2 inches behind this point. It's not right on the forehead. It's behind. And you can tune into that, and that is going to be the intuitive, your wisdom intuition. And that comes from a different place. That's coming from your soul. But tuning into your body, like what is your body trying to tell you? Because your body has a really good source of intuition as well. It knows so much more than your brain knows. It's storing so much in there, so many more signals and input and everything else is coming from there. So tune into what, and this is taking your attention away from the third eye and put your attention into your body. Ask yes or no questions and scan your body. What is it trying to tell you? And tune into that and allow it to tell you. So hopefully this has been really helpful. For me, I have found personally that the more I'm doing this, the less anxiety I feel on a day-to-day basis. But it's also allowed me, and this is a secondary effect, I would say, of doing nervous system work, is it's actually got me much faster to the deep root cause of my problems because I've got calm in and of myself, and it's allowed me to access some of the things that maybe I've been blocking and hiding and not dealing with, and to open them up and bring them out and express them. And that's actually shifted a lot of anxiety from me as it is. But just that constant tuning into my nervous system, I think it's just been invaluable. And it's taught me that I can be in control of how I respond in situations, because I used to be very, very reactive. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to be reactive in the future, because that sets you up for failure as well, thinking you've got to be perfect. I may still be reactive, but what I might do is be able to bring myself back down a lot more quickly because I know how to. So just remembering that when you do have fight or flight responses or freeze responses or any of these things are happening, it's not because your nervous system is broken. These are like evolutionary things that we are pre-programmed to do for survival. And your nervous system is so powerful and wise, but it's waiting for you to listen. So it's about tuning in. And once you learn how it's speaking to you, you unlock the powers that you had all along. So I'd love to invite you to try one body-led practice today, even if it is just taking a deep breath and noticing how that feels. And share in the comments what hidden powers you've noticed in your own nervous system. I'd love to know. And if you've enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe so that you can come back to it whenever you need to. And get all my other great stuff as well. Not that I'm going to blow my own trumpet. And if you'd like to join me in my private group where we can connect, we can get to know each other more, and you can try some of these practices out for yourself, then I've dropped the link in the description and I would love to see you there. But until then, I'll see you soon.